Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to the White Hatter News Show.
Darren here.
Brandon. And let's get into some updates.
Let's do it.
Update this week is our first security privacy roundup for businesses.
That's one you're going to be hosting on Monday, is it? Or Tuesday? Monday,
it's Tuesday. So this is kind of like this show, but it's more focused for businesses, more focused, more planned. And
Can you
more
give me
direct.
some ideas?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Zoom's updates to privacy and security
Right.
for companies.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about some new data reports in terms of security risks with working from home.
Oh, that's a good one.
We gathered a bunch of industry reports with some new data and stats showing what workers and companies are and are not doing.
Gotcha.
So if you're a working professional or a business, check that out. It's free. It should be maybe an hour or so plus Q&A.
Cool.
So a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that will be live afterwards as well for replay.
Right on. Or you'll be live. This is your show. You're going to do this one.
Yeah, I'm doing this one, but we'll be able to keep it up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Looking forward to it. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, it'll be our first one, and we'll.
We're going to try to do that every month?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. For sure. Yeah. What else we got going?
Well, that's all we have updates for this week. But let's get into the news.
Oh, wasn't this week or the past week, the week that we did our, you did a session or two sessions, but you did one that was fully translated in Arabic?
Yeah, so we did do, So
That's pretty cool.
Yes. We're still working on improving the technology, but
pretty cool.
Using what we can do here in the studio and kind of bringing in live translation that's remote.
Would you stop underplaying yourself? I mean, how you were able to bridge a variety of pieces of technology, both hardware and software together, which I think is a first. Like I haven't seen this anywhere else, and I've looked everywhere.
The translator was impressed.
Yeah, I mean, just the way you were able to bring all these different functions and bridge them all together to make it happen was spectacular. I mean, basically what it means now is we can offer our programs in any language. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, pretty much.
And it was all you, right? Like he has a habit of underplaying himself. Right? He doesn't like to blow his own horn and stuff. Well, I'll blow it for him. Like, yeah, you did a good job. Like it was spectacular. A couple little things that we've identified, but like anything new, they're going to have a little bit of glitches. But overall, even the translator said that he was quite impressed.
Yep.
And he does translation professionally. Like he did it for the UN. Right? And I mean, this guy is good at what he does. And he said he was very impressed with how it worked. Pretty cool, right? Yeah. So, tap on the back for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, tap on the back. Yeah, blow your own horn.
Toot, toot.
Toot, toot. Right on. Okay, so
let's get into the news.
In the news.
First news topic we're going to talk about is, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, growth in fake tracing apps relating to the pandemic.
Is this really unexpected? No. I mean, we know that the criminal element online will use things that are relevant in today's news, right?
Yeah.
And COVID is the thing, so as a result of that, they target it. So what happened in this?
Well, basically, because our Prime Minister announced how Canada is working on their version of a contact tracing app.
And notice we said Prime Minister. We don't have a president. We have a Prime Minister. Just saying. Just for the people who are watching, right? Like when we go down to the United States, they think that we have a president up here too. No, you guys have a president. We have a prime minister.
We have a prime minister.
They're basically the head of state, right? And that's our head of state is called a prime minister, not a president.
Not the Queen.
No. No. Although we're part of the Commonwealth,
yes,
for sure. But the head of state is the Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay.
The Queen's representative is the
Governor
General. Very good, very good. You listened during your social studies classes. Yeah, very good. Yeah, anyways. So what was this one all about? We just got off the topic a little bit there. But I mean, here's the issue. Before you download anything to deal with COVID, check it out first and make sure it's legit.
Yeah, but I mean, like we see people here using like the Health Canada logo, and so I mean, obviously it's.
So, don't you think that they should maybe contact Health Canada first to ascertain that in fact it is true?
Yeah, but
maybe if they go to Health Canada's actual website.
That's the one, yeah.
Right, and make sure it is Health Canada's website and not one that you've been, fished to and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just
and obviously, see, it's on a Google Play and there's no Android, there's no Apple version. in this fake one.
Oh, good on you. You picked that. I missed that.
It's like,
one.
oh, this is only for one platform. Usually,
sometimes that happens. Though.
Sometimes it happens, but usually when people like organizations and governments roll these things out, they have for both platforms.
Oh, okay.
Usually at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, I think the viewers would like this. We put something on top of the camera there, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we put a Lego Jar Jar Binks.
We put a Lego Jar Jar Binks. I read an article, and it makes a lot of sense that when you're doing these things, a lot of people have a habit of not looking in the camera, right? Because it's hard to do. So they said, put little figurines on top of your camera. So Brandon found one of his Jar Jar Binks Legos, and that's who we look at. And it actually works pretty good. Hey Jar Jar, how you doing? Pretty cool. Anyways.
Miso on camera.
Miso on camera. Next topic. Miso on camera.
Google is increasing their privacy data controls for its users.
Okay, I just want to say something. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Yeah,
I
guess since Apple has
right?
made some more improvements because Google is next.
Wow! iPhone, right? They're following Apple, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because privacy matters. I mean, everybody knows that, and Google was a little hesitant about doing these kind of things, but Apple took the lead, and so now Google's following, right? Yeah. So what's this one all about?
Google's making their incognito mode more easily accessible.
Can we just talk about that one for a second? Because a lot of people believe, especially teens that we speak
talked about in our last show.
Yeah, they actually believe that incognito makes you invisible when you're online surfing.
No, it only prevents your device from saving data about you. So your IP address, your screen size, all that stuff.
So it makes it harder for your wife to see that you were surfing certain things online that you shouldn't be surfing,
sure.
Right? Or stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
it makes it harder for the local. But even if you're using even if you're on like a corporate or school network and using incognito, they can still potentially see what you're doing.
I mean, it's don't fall for the belief that incognito makes you totally invisible online.
And we talked about in the last show and how there was apparently a lawsuit against Google for its maybe potentially not making that clear to users.
For sure. What else?
Google is adding an automatic auto delete function for 18 months going forward.
Hey, Apple, just to let you know, Google's following your lead.
Yeah, so new things like that. Apparently, Google's also making its privacy security checkup setting more prominent and easily accessible to users.
Who else does that?
Yes.
Just saying.
So new privacy changes coming to Google, which is interesting. The auto delete thing's interesting as well.
It's they have to, right? There is so much heat coming down from everybody saying that we've been giving these large vendors such as Google, Apple, all this opportunity to police themselves. They're not doing it, and so now they're recognizing, times are changing, and if we don't start hopping on this train, we're going to start having legislation passed that's not going to be in our favor, because I think the evidence is there over the past 10, 15, 20 years that these large corporate vendors cannot police themselves, right? It's all about money to them and whatever they can do to make money, right? And there's no doubt by doing this kind of stuff, it will cut in on their profits, right? So maybe not. I mean,
if Google has such a huge data bank already, I guess it doesn't really matter if the data is deleted after 18 months.
Yes, but I still do. I think they need to be broken up? No. Do I think that there needs to be more legislation? Yes. Do I think they need to remove the safe harbor that prevents people from suing companies like this? Absolutely, because they should be held responsible for anything that they post, right? So that would put the onus on them to ensure that whatever they post on their platform is filtered first before it gets to the general public.
And then the whole internet gets crumbled.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Well,
do you like watching YouTube videos? Do you like watching?
Let me put a caveat to that. I shouldn't have said it that way. But I mean, it'll collapse, but just think about what could be built out of the ashes. Maybe an internet that was intended for the intended use of the internet. I mean,
no, the internet, it's the providers. But the thing is with the providers is that for small providers, it's extremely expensive, and they don't have the infrastructure. Like, you can't create a new YouTube because
YouTube's cornered the market.
And to host such massive amounts of video is way too expensive for every.
But don't you think there should be an onus on YouTube to make sure that whatever they're posting on their platform meets community standards and policy and procedures and terms of service?
Sure, they could crank.
But do they?
They could crank up their AI.
But do they?
No, they don't. They do. They have AI.
The AI doesn't work very well.
Yeah, but if they crank it up way too much, then
we've
seen it happen, and it's destroyed YouTube. When the AI's been, because then the creators don't get money, and then the creativity process is destroyed.
Well, then there comes a point in time that maybe there's different ways to be creators. Like, do we allow the internet to be unpoliced to the point where we just let creators do whatever they want, no matter
No,
what?
creators are still bound by like YouTube's terms of service and guidelines.
Yeah. So what if YouTube ignores it?
Well, they have AI that does not.
Yeah, but what
ignore
if somebody brings something to their attention right now and ignores it? I mean, just look at what's going on in the election in the United States right now. There are clear things that are posted on YouTube, as well as other media platforms, that are clear violations of terms of service. That if anybody else did it, they would be deleted, but they're not deleting it. Why?
Yeah, and what about the companies, like music companies, that are abusing their DMCA takedowns, and even though a YouTube video is using music in fair use, they're still taking it down automatically because they're trying to make money.
Yeah, I mean, that's a point as well. I mean, for every action, there's always equal and opposite reaction,
Yeah.
right? For sure. I mean, have we gone so far to the left that now we're moving all the way to the right without figuring out what the balance is? Because in everything we say about internet and social media and digital literacy, it's all about balance, right? And I mean, ultimately, I think that the Decency Act, that's section, I think it's 230 or 320. It's one of those two, the safe harbor section that prevents companies from like this being sued, needs to be revisited. Because I do think that if there was more of a financial onus placed on these companies to deal with these issues that would hit them in the pocketbook, we would see changes taking place. And those changes, I think, would be positive. Now, will there be some downsides to that where creators maybe can't be as creative? Sure. No. But again, it's all about finding a balance, right? My opinion.
All right.
My opinion. What do you think, Jar Jar?
New research and analysis coming out of figuring out how to overcome voice spoofing. Some of the issues we're seeing is either through deep fakes or just recording someone's voice and editing it together.
One ping only. I watched Hunt for Red October last night.
Oh,
Sean
okay.
Connery. One ping only.
Okay.
That's his voice. I just spoofed his voice.
Okay.
So, well, at least
So-
I thought I did.
Sure.
Okay.
Basically, researchers designing new ways on detecting a new solution called VOID, voice liveness detection.
I love that.
It
Void.
is and can be embedded into smart phones or voice assistant software, and works by identifying differences in the spectral power between live human voice and
Spectral
voice
power.
replay through
Where's
speakers.
my tin hat? I need my tin hat. Oh, what's spectral power? What's spectral power?
I don't entirely know, but what I can assume is that basically talking like this is different than, say, a sound of a voice coming from a speaker.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like this sounds mechanically different.
So that's spectral power?
I'm assuming.
Okay.
I don't know.
why is
I
this-
don't have the PhD to do this stuff.
So why is this advantageous?
It's advantageous because, again, we're seeing things like deep fakes,
good
voice
point.
copying, editing,
Good point.
and people trying to mimic other people
point.
through a phone. Trying
One
to, yeah.
ping
So,
only. Get to the chopper! Arnold Schwarzenegger.
do you have anything else in you?
No.
All done?
I'm done.
Okay. Okay. Interesting opinion piece by Graham Culley, another security researcher and reporter. So basically, the UK is now opening they're starting to open up restaurants and pubs and bars and whatnot, getting into kind of like what we're doing in BC is our phase 4 kind of thing.
But we're doing it in a logical way, right? To reduce COVID. Other parts of the world, other countries,
Are just open altogether.
yeah, they're just opening all together, and and now they're seeing
Yeah.
an increase in COVID. Anyways, not going to say what countries those are, but
UK, so they have actually released this whole like massive document for restaurants on how to open up safely. But what's interesting is, according to their own advice, the UK government is basically saying for bars, pubs, and restaurants to keep records of customers who visit for 21 days. In the case, let's say someone walks into a restaurant, they're diagnosed positive, then you can kind of trace back of who else was in the restaurant at that date and time.
okay.
But according to the researcher, wouldn't it be nice that if this data was collected carefully, stored securely, and ultimately properly destroyed in a way that doesn't breach their GDPR, their privacy regulation?
Well, how are restaurants and pubs going to do that? Can I please see your driver's license and registration?
I don't know. See, what's interesting, what this researcher picked out is that in this document, it doesn't say what information should or should not be collected.
Okay, so why don't we just all get a barcode tattooed on us with scanners, so that when you walk into these places, it just goes, zzz, and then it knows who you are. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is like
that may not be a bad,
like
bad
Minority
idea.
Report.
It
right?
might not be a bad idea.
I don't think so.
Think of it like Apple's Apple Pay, right? You connect your credit card to Apple Pay, and you go to a business and you pay through Apple Pay. The business doesn't get any information on you.
No, but Apple does. Yeah, the big corporate entity, Apple does.
I don't know what data did you give out. Like,
Well,
okay, maybe Apple Pay's not the best idea.
But do you really want somebody to embed and chip in
No,
you?
obviously not.
Okay.
But again,
Where's my tin hat?
I don't think we have them right here
right.
at this point in time. But I mean, it's again, like,
It's Orwellian.
yeah, it's like, hey, I need your driver's license. Like, what data do you collect from that?
Yeah, no. And I guess if I say no, then I don't get served, right?
I don't know. Again, it's things are moving way too quickly, and there's a lot of concerns people are posing.
Okay, I have one word. Stupid. Anyways, just saying.
Anyway,
That's
so
the boomer in me. I got a boomer attitude today. Have you noticed? I'm a little growly today.
oh, okay,
I'm a little growly.
all right. As long as you're not a Karen.
One ping only.
Okay. Facial recognition has had quite a week this week. Harrisburg University researchers have said they've developed software that can predict someone is a criminal based solely off a picture of their face. Like basically predicting criminals based off the looks of their face.
Now, Brandon, didn't you find an article where just recently facial recognition gave a false positive, and as a result of that, somebody got
Actually happened this week. The ACLU this week basically said someone was wrongfully accused because fake face recognition can't tell the difference between black people. And it's like, and we've talked about this on how racial minorities, there is bias built into facial recognition, and some people, and usually racial minorities, are the ones who unfairly get judged by facial recognition. Again, this week as well, this is a very good example.
You know what this reminds me of, and you're going to pop it up here in a second, but when I was taking my university criminology, like 35 years ago, we were studying this thing called Phrenology.
Yes.
Which is, there was a belief that bumps on one's skull could predict criminality. So they actually had these doctors that would feel your skull looking for certain bumps, and if you had these certain bumps, you were more prone to criminality.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason.
One word for this. Stupid.
There's a reason why 1,700 academics have signed a letter demanding that the publication does not publish this research because it's stupid. It's we've seen, and apparently the researchers say that it doesn't have any bias, but we've seen it happening. We've talked about it in the show for months now that yes, facial recognition has intrinsic bias. It's not great.
Oh my God. Just get over it, people. I mean, I think we'll talk about this a little later. There may be some places for it, but I mean, overall, like, no, right? Like, I know in China right now, like the cops there, they got these glasses now. They're like the old Google glasses where they put them on, and as they're looking in a crowd, it uses the cameras there in the glasses to use facial recognition to go, oh, that person's got a warrant, or boop, that person shouldn't be out right now. Like, yeah, but false positives are a significant issue, right? So,
I mean, it'd be interesting to see when it comes to lawsuits in regards to false positives.
Yeah, for sure.
Hence why the ACLU is involved in this particular case, because, hey, what are we going to do about this?
I know. It's ridiculous, right?
Which is why this week as well, the U.S. House proposed a bill banning federal use of facial recognition technology.
Yeah, it'll die in the Senate.
Well,
right? The Senate's not going to pass that.
But yeah, so I mean, at least we're seeing some government movement afoot in regards to understanding that facial AI is not great.
Now, does this apply only to government? What about if you're a private business? So a good example, Mall of America, West Edmonton Mall here in Canada, a private entity, could they still use facial recognition on their cameras that they have in their facilities?
According to the article, it's talking about federal funding for state and local law enforcement agencies. So, I mean, I don't think this impacts private business, which again is also a big concern.
Yeah, but I here in Canada, I would imagine the OPCC and that kind of stuff, or would probably get involved in something like that if they learn that private entities were now using facial recognition technology.
Well,
Right?
they are in Canada.
Yeah, I know.
But it's a matter of how they phrase it and what kind of data they collect and how to use it.
That's true.
It can be used as long as it's used within the law, but you can kind of bend that a bit.
Yeah, just
But it's places like Boston. So not looking at the federal level, but Boston, more of a municipal level, banning the use of facial recognition within its borders, which is great. Obviously, there's some exceptions in regards to, yes, you can use facial recognition to unlock your phone.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Now, I don't think facial recognition should be used by general policing agencies and that kind of stuff, but I do feel that there are certain circumstances from a security standpoint that facial recognition may be an adjunct, not to be all end all, but an adjunct to an investigation. So a good example, having facial recognition at all the ports of entry into a country, be it via road, be it airplane, be it boat. Again, to prevent people from coming into the country that shouldn't be into the country and stuff, right? That are maybe, targeted or by Interpol, good example, where these people will flee from other countries to come to Canada, United States, wherever, and they'll come in via port of entry. Well, facial recognition technology may be a useful tool in those circumstances as an adjunct, not the overall, but if all of a sudden I get a positive hit on an Interpol individual that was tagged on Interpol coming into Canada at the port, and well, then all of a sudden I'm going to pull that person aside and I'm going to have further discussions with them, right, to help me form my reasonable and probable grounds. And then maybe at that point in time I can get a fingerprint from them. So now I can compare the fingerprint to the person who is actually in the Interpol to say, yes, facial recognition technology was appropriate in this case, right? So, but do I think it should be used as a matter of public practice by police departments?
And that your face matches their face, and then you automatically get served a warrant.
I don't even think that police departments should be using facial recognition technology in any kind of camera system. Do I think camera systems are positive from a policing standpoint? Yes. They're not a great crime prevention tool, but they're a great after crime protocol tool, right? Where they actually see the crime and they pick it up, right? So some good research on that. It doesn't necessarily prevent crime, but it helps to assist in the after action of crime, getting people identified, convicted, and that kind of stuff. But do I think that they should be using these camera systems, CCTV, using facial recognition technology? No, I don't think so. I think that's too Big Brother-ish. I think that's too Orwellian in nature, and I think we're going down a slippery slope. But in certain circumstances, border's a good example, I think it would be okay.
But, there could be time in the future, say 5, 10, 15, 20 years, where if Face AI could be 100% accurate.
You think so? Do you think there will come that time?
I think there'll probably come a time. Just based off technology and its growth that isn't stopping.
I think it'll be interesting to see. And then how easy would it be to spoof facial recognition technology, right?
Yeah, that's true.
All of a sudden, have you seen some of these latex masks now that people use? I mean,
are we going to Mission Impossible areas now?
Yeah.
Oh, copyright.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to see the accuracy of some of these latex masks right now, right? So again,
get your own home 3D printer, it's going to be cheaper, and then
some interesting slopes to go down, right?
I mean, it'd be interesting to see that, if you get wrongfully accused from Face AI, like there should be like an automatic here's a bucket of money kind of thing. Like, sorry,
all it's going to take is one person to make a civil suit. If that ACLU one that you brought up is successful, I would suspect it will send a clear message to all organizations.
If you wrongfully accuse someone through facial recognition only,
it's going to cost you big bucks.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to cost you big bucks. But the problem is what happens if you have a crime, it's caught on camera, you're using facial recognition to pick up the person, but yet you have no other evidence to prove that is the person. So you have no DNA, you have no fingerprint evidence. Well, and now all you have is facial recognition, right? So how do you use that now? Right?
I know. So, perhaps you just can't.
Or at least the facial recognition will now give you at least, I'm just thinking out loud. Like, let's say we have a crime. Let's say we have a murder. A murder's picked up by CCTV of a private business, right? Very common because you see police departments now asking if does anybody have any dash cam video, kind of like I have, right? So, all of a sudden we have a business who captures a murder that takes place in behind their place of business on their CCTV. you run it through facial recognition, they pick up as your suspect, right? But let's say the suspect has never been dealt with by the police before, so there's no DNA, there's no fingerprints. Well,
Run it through like Clearview AI or something?
yeah, but what it does do, though, from a policing perspective, is it does give me a primary suspect now that I know that they're a primary suspect, although I have no DNA on site, there was DNA left at the scene.
I guess that's the difference between that and then the ACLU case, where it's like your face matches up, boom, you get automatically served.
See, that shouldn't happen, right? But, in my case, if all of a sudden we got a person on camera, never been dealt with police before, but there is DNA or forensic evidence at the scene, the facial recognition now allows me to now understand that that's now my primary suspect. So what do? I put an undercover team on that individual, and I'm looking for cast-off DNA. So let's say they're drinking a cup of coffee, they toss the coffee in the garbage. What do? I collect that cup because I know there's going to be DNA on it. Send it off because you can do that. You don't need a warrant to get cast-off DNA. I get the cup, I send it off to forensics, they come back with the DNA, you then compare that DNA to the DNA that was left at the scene, there's a match, got him. Right? So that might be a good use of it, right? But like you say, just using a camera to go, ooh, that's the person, here's your warrant, you're under arrest. I don't think so. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's too dangerous, right? So I just think it's an adjunct to an investigative process. It shouldn't be the answer.
My also issue with these companies is that we've seen in courts and how someone gets detected by some sort of artificial technology, but these companies want it so proprietary, they don't want to release their code in the court. I believe that if you're using facial recognition AI, that the source code should be available to the court to review.
Isn't that a movie? Source code. That is a movie. I agree.
But there's a thing right now where companies don't do that.
Yeah, because they don't want to publicly put out there what their special sauce is. Right?
Yeah, but if you're using a special sauce in this type of case, and it's being if someone can be forced to open up their Facebook profile in a civil court, then a company should be forced to unlock their source code to make sure that there's no biases, there's no issues with the tech.
That's a good point.
Right?
No, that's a good point because there could be, right? There could be a flaw in the source code, right?
Yeah, there could be. But how do you prove that? You can't prove that unless you test it.
Unless you have an external expert.
And are you going to test the company's own internal tests? No, because they're always going to toss all the stuff that doesn't fit within their own narrative.
I mean, they kind of do the same thing with the old Birkenstein breathalyzer machines, right? Like you had to reveal what the special sauce was and the science behind it so that it could be challenged if it needed to be challenged, right?
Yes.
Well, the same thing would apply. I would agree with you. I'm just looking at it from a logical perspective. Logically, it makes sense to me, much like the old Birkenstein breathalyzer machine. You would do the same thing with AI, the source code, right? So, but... yeah, I can see why companies wouldn't want to do that, though, right?
Yeah, because
all of a sudden I know
here's
your
my
special
source
sauce.
code. It's in the court document, and then another company who's also in the same industry reads it and then gets access to it somehow.
But I guess in courts you can get an order to say that certain parts of evidence isn't publicly disclosed, right? You can do that.
Okay, what if you have a court that has a jury and then they look at that?
Yeah, I know.
And then how can you rely that one of those members won't relay some of the stuff back to another company?
That's
who
true.
Wants to buy
That's
it?
true. Or writes a book after
Write
the
the
trial.
book. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah. Interesting,
Yeah.
right? Interesting. Some of these discussions we have in this show, they can get pretty deep, based upon a lot of the stupid things that some of these companies are doing.
your face looks like this. You're gonna commit a crime most likely.
Or you got bumps on your head. Hold
Yeah,
on, let me
bumps.
feel it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Good show.
Yeah, that's what we got.
It was interesting that facial recognition technology seemed to be the item in a lot of the stuff that you identified this week.
Yeah, it was most of the news this week, which is interesting. I guess because there's a lot of people going out in public, protesting, exercising their rights in public, but people are worried that public entities are going to misuse some of this data that's being collected.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, the other interesting thing that is happening now is, here in British Columbia, we've moved to phase 4 or phase.
Are we officially in phase 4 now, or are we thinking about it?
I think we're officially in the last phase now, but we're monitoring it, and a lot of the other countries are now doing this. But you can see that if people are forgetting that the virus never forgets, right? It doesn't recognize international borders or political parties and that kind of stuff, and it's still out. We may be tired of the virus, but the virus is not tired of us. And I think if we're not careful, we're going to be right back into the deep of things again. So for those people that are watching, although we're out there and we're socially connecting with one another now, moving into phase 4, and things are opening up, don't forget social distancing, don't forget proper hygiene, and wear a mask. Right? Wear a mask. I do it every time I go out. When I'm going out into a public, not when I'm outside of the car walking around, don't get me wrong, but if I'm going into shopping or into a mall or into a store, I wear a mask. And, people don't look at me funny. It's just accepted. And we now know that masks help to reduce the spread of COVID. So there you go.
All right.
Good show.
That's the show.
Good show.
We'll see you all next week.
So on behalf of the grumpy boomer,
And Brandon, bye everyone.
See
Thank
ya.
you for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
bye now.
Bye.